Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take complex dynamics, specifically, the kind that show up when you gather a group of people who are supposed to love each other, but,
hmm
well, mostly just stress each other out.
That's a very polite way to put it.
Look, whether you love them or you dread them, high-stress family gatherings are often just unavoidable, especially this time of year. And while these reunions are supposed to be joyful, they often just amplify existing communication challenges.
And that anticipation is exhausting in itself. The research really backs this up. A recent survey found that, get this, a staggering 89% of U.S. adults report having real concerns about potential family disagreements during these high-stress seasons.
89%. So
Yeah.
that's nearly everyone walking into a room basically bracing for impact.
Bracing for impact, exactly.
Which is why our mission today feels so critical. We want to extract the evidence-based strategies you need to master those difficult conversations, to develop some laser-sharp assertiveness, and, crucially, establish healthy boundaries so you can protect your own emotional well-being.
Yeah, and we're drawing on some really powerful frameworks here. We're looking at cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, for that internal self-management piece.
Right, how you talk to yourself.
And then dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT, for the interpersonal effectiveness part, how you manage the interactions outside of yourself. You really need both.
Okay, so let's unpack where the friction usually starts. We know the stress is real. And I think I saw a study that said nearly 40% of families report, open disagreements at these gatherings.
So it's high.
So what are the universal flashpoints, the specific landmines we should all be looking out for?
Well, the primary ones are usually those really sensitive, divisive topics. Politics continues to lead the pack. That's about 34% of families citing it as a definite trigger.
No surprise there.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But right behind that are old wounds past family grievances. That's sitting at 32%. And then you've got relationship issues and money matters, both hovering around 25%.
So these things don't just disappear because there's turkey on the table?
Not at all. And it's not just the topic, it's the environment itself. I mean, you have this huge situational stress overload.
What do you mean by that?
People are often just running on fumes from travel, from preparations. They have these idealized expectations of a perfect reunion. And then, critically, you add alcohol into the mix.
The great social lubricant that lowers inhibitions?
It lowers inhibitions and it just completely impairs judgment. So when your emotional reserves are that depleted, conflicts just escalate from 0 to 100 with shocking speed.
And this is where the psychology gets, I think, particularly sticky.
Mhm.
It's this idea of adult role regression.
Yes.
You could be a successful CEO, a tenured professor, whatever,
Yeah.
but the moment you step back into your childhood home, older relatives can immediately start treating you like you're 15 again.
It is a profound and immediate psychological shift. That environment, the layout of the house, even the smell, the presence of your parents, it can trigger these old neural pathways.
So you just revert.
You instinctively revert to a less autonomous, younger version of yourself. And parents or older relatives, they often hold this sort of frozen in time image of their adult children, which directly clashes with the independent identity that person has built.
So that's where the conflict over autonomy comes from.
That's a major flashpoint. And you see the same thing with siblings. They slide right back into old patterns of competition or resentment. The whole system just tries to snap back to its outdated dynamics.
We also really need to acknowledge the specific challenges for neurodiverse individuals.
Yeah.
So people with conditions like autism or ADHD, these gatherings can be intensely overwhelming.
Absolutely. That intense social fatigue and sensory overload, the bright lights, multiple conversations happening at once, unexpected touch. It can lead to just deep mental exhaustion, burnout, really.
And then there's the pressure to mask,
Right.
to hide your natural communication style.
Which is incredibly draining over extended periods. It consumes cognitive energy that you could otherwise be using for, regulation and actual communication.
So if you are a neurodiverse attendee, what's the most actionable strategy? How do you get through it with your energy intact?
Pre-planning. It's essential. You need to get explicit permission ahead of time to take breaks, to retreat to a quiet room, to use calming tools like noise-canceling headphones.
And that's not being rude.
It is not rude. It's necessary self-care. And another thing, because invalidating remarks are sadly common, is to practice some calm responses in advance. Have a gentle script ready.
Like what?
Something like, actually, autism presents differently in everyone, and here's how it affects me. It uses gentle education to protect your boundaries without getting into an exhausting fight.
So manage the environment. But that brings us to managing yourself.
Exactly. As powerful as those outward tools are, they mean nothing if you can't manage your own internal state first. Effective outward communication is absolutely contingent on robust internal self-management.
And stress and out-of-control emotion are the main barriers there.
They're the primary internal barriers. And we have to underscore again that substances, especially alcohol, act as a massive risk multiplier. It just erodes your emotional control right when you need it most.
This is where that CBT framework comes in, right? Focusing on that internal monologue. Let's talk about cognitive reframing.
This is the core skill of emotional regulation. CBT teaches you how to identify and then replace those distortion-driven beliefs.
Okay, give me an example.
So, a relative criticizes your job. Your automatic thought might be, they are trying to undermine me, they don't respect me, and that leads instantly to anger.
Of course.
But you can consciously reframe it. You can choose to think, they might just be worried about my stability, and this clumsy criticism is their distorted way of expressing care.
That's a huge shift.
It's a huge shift, and it dramatically reduces your emotional reactivity. The conversation moves from feeling like an attack to feeling like a slightly misplaced concern, so you can respond calmly, assertively, instead of just lashing out.
That mindful pause between the trigger and the reaction is so critical.
Wow.
But what if we miss it? We're already heated, blood pressure's rising. What are the in-the-moment de-escalation tools?
Strategic timeouts. It seems simple, but it's the most effective intervention. You take a respectful, temporary break when emotions are running hot.
You just storm out.
No, you state your need clearly. I need a moment to collect my thoughts, or I'm just going to step outside for some air. Physically separating lets your nervous system cool down and prevents the argument from spiraling into something you'll regret.
Okay, but what if you can't physically leave? Or you need to table the issue right now without causing a scene?
Then you need skillful redirection, or the explicit strategy of agreeing to disagree. If a debate about a divisive topic starts boiling over, you actively look for common ground and redirect.
So change the subject.
Gently, yes. This is clearly getting tense. How about we change the subject? I'd love to hear about your recent trip. Or, if you can avoid it, you firmly state the boundary. We clearly see this differently. Let's just agree to disagree on this and not let it spoil the day.
You're signaling that the relationship is more important than winning that one point.
Exactly. You're prioritizing harmony over consensus.
So we've regulated ourselves internally. Now we can shift to the external communication. And this word, assertiveness, it gets a bad rap. It's often mislabeled as aggression.
It is, and it's really the respectful, necessary middle ground. If you're passive, you just build resentment. If you're aggressive, you invite hostility. Assertiveness is that sweet spot.
There's a framework for this, isn't there? The HARD framework.
That's right. The research defines truly assertive communication using HARD. Your communication should be honest, appropriate for the context, respectful of the other person, and direct about your needs.
And this style is linked to better outcomes, right? Less anxiety.
Consistently. It's linked to positive life outcomes, including reduced social anxiety, because you gain confidence, and other people know exactly what to expect from you. It's all about presenting yourself confidently and standing up for yourself respectfully.
And a huge part of that confidence comes down to how you phrase things. Moving away from blame. Let's talk about the power of I statements.
They are so powerful because they minimize defensiveness. When you use an I statement, you focus solely on your own feelings and experiences, not on what the other person did wrong.
So instead of you always interrupt me.
Exactly. Instead of that accusation, you shift to, I feel frustrated when I'm unable to finish my thought because I feel that what I'm saying isn't being fully heard, that I feel structure, it invites a discussion instead of an attack.
But I can hear a listener thinking, doesn't that sound a bit soft? If someone says something truly awful, how do I use an I statement without downplaying it?
That's a great question. Assertiveness isn't about being soft, it's about being effective. You use the I statement to own your reaction, but you still follow through with a clear behavioral request.
Okay, so how would that sound?
If a comment is truly insulting, you say, I feel insulted when you say that about my partner, and I need you to stop making comments about her immediately. The assertion is still firm. You're just focusing the impact of their action on yourself, which is less likely to trigger their defensive reflex.
And communication is a two-way street. So if you're asserting, you also have to be listening.
100%. Active listening requires real nonverbal commitment, eye contact, open body language, and, most importantly, clearing your mind of your counterarguments.
You have to actually hear them.
And demonstrate validation. You don't have to agree with their conclusion, but you have to confirm the emotion they're sharing. Paraphrasing is great for this. It sounds like you were really frustrated and upset by what happened with your boss. That validation just softens defensiveness instantly.
For those really high-stakes moments, like asking a relative to stop asking intrusive personal questions, DBT has a very structured technique. It's called Dear Man.
It's the blueprint for this. It's perfect because it's a step-by-step checklist you can prepare in advance.
So let's break it down. Dear.
Describe the objective situation, just the facts. Express how you feel using those I statements. Assert what you need, your specific request, and reinforce why they might benefit from complying.
And then the man part is about how you deliver it.
Right. Be mindful of your goals, appear confident, even if you're nervous, and be willing to negotiate.
Okay, let's run through an example. Let's say you need a relative to respect your privacy about your dating life.
Okay, so describe. I've noticed you frequently ask me questions about my dating life in front of the whole family.
Just the facts.
Just the facts. Then express, I feel pressured and uncomfortable when I have to share private information in a large group.
Then assert.
I aim you to stop asking me about my personal relationships when other people are present.
And finally, reinforce.
If we can agree to keep those topics private, I'll feel much more relaxed and be able to enjoy our time together. It's structured, it's respectful, and it's incredibly direct.
All of this, assertiveness, it culminates in the ability to set and hold healthy boundaries. And for so many people, this is the hardest part. They're afraid of the conflict or of disappointing people.
But boundaries are just the necessary limits you set on how others can behave toward you. They are essential for protecting your mental health. They aren't about pushing family away. They're about defining what's acceptable behavior within the relationship.
The research lays out a structured way to do this, with a real emphasis on the enforcement part.
Yes, first, you have to identify your specific limits. What actually makes you uncomfortable or stressed? Second, communicate them clearly, using that assertive I statement structure.
And third, be willing to say no.
Be willing to say no. And remember, as so many clinicians say, no is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone an elaborate justification for protecting your own peace.
And this is where it gets tough. This is where most people stumble. The follow-through.
Consistency is everything. That's the fourth step. You must enforce the boundary with your actions. If you set a limit on late-night calls, you have to stop answering the phone after that time, period.
Because if you don't, you're sending a mixed message.
You're sending the message that the boundary is negotiable, which just invites more violations. And fifth, you need to stay calm, firm, and patient. Expect pushback. Family systems love the status quo, and when you change, the system will try to force you back into your old role.
That pushback often comes as emotional manipulation. So managing the guilt, that's the biggest hurdle.
That is where your emotional independence is paramount. You are not responsible for how the other person reacts when you set a limit. Their discomfort, their anger, that is theirs to manage.
That's so important to hear.
It is. Managing your own residual guilt is a critical part of reinforcing your own autonomy.
Okay, so what if someone is actively guilt-tripping you to test that boundary? Is there a script for that?
You have to address the tactic directly. You can respond with something like, I feel uncomfortable when guilt is used to influence my decisions. I prefer we have open and honest communication about this.
You name the manipulation.
You name it. And by doing that, you set a boundary around the method of communication, not just the topic. It makes it much harder for them to keep doing it.
So after all this, what's the big takeaway? The one thing you should remember?
That effective communication and setting healthy boundaries, these are not inherent personality traits. They are learned behavioral skills.
They require practice.
They require deliberate practice, rehearsal, role-playing. You have to do it over and over for it to become automatic, especially when you're under stress.
Okay, so we'll leave our listeners with one final provocative thought from the research.
Right. Before you jump into a conflict, you have to assess the context. Direct opposition, that head-on argument, using firm assertions, it's only really beneficial when a serious, changeable problem needs addressing.
And when both people are capable of handling it.
And when both people are secure enough to respond constructively. If the problems are minor or just can't be changed, like someone's political views, cooperative communication, empathy, validation, redirection, that might be far more beneficial for the long-term health of the relationship.
So it's about choosing your battles wisely.
Success depends entirely on assessing the context and choosing your approach.
Gaining this level of insight into your own behavioral triggers, your relational dynamics, it's profoundly powerful. But translating that knowledge into consistent positive action often requires support.
It does. And if you're interested in moving forward faster and gaining deeper self-insight into these challenging patterns, Edward Jenny and Associates offers both psychotherapy and collaborative assessments, including couples psychotherapy.
And how does that help, specifically?
We use integrated, sophisticated assessments and these evidence-based frameworks like CBT and DBT to help clients get to the root of their issues faster. It provides the insight you need to know yourself more deeply and actually apply these tools successfully when it really matters most.
So if you're ready to stop feeling stuck and you want to gain the tools to improve your interpersonal relationships, especially in these kinds of complex, high-stress environments, we encourage you to connect with Edward Jenny and Associates for a free consultation. That link is available in the description below.